Hi everyone, just wanted to take a minute and discuss the major assignment, the case study analysis that you're doing in your groups. I wanted to just explain further what I'm expecting of you. So this is going to be a case study analysis in a report format. That means it's going to be in Word, double-spaced. I want Times New font size 12, and I want you to use APA style writing. You don't need to have an abstract for this kind of APA format, but please do have a heading, have page numbers, make sure you have a title page with all of your group members' names on it. Don't forget anyone. And then at the end, I would like for you to tell me exactly what group member did which portion of the project, because in many cases there is one group member that does a lot more work, or one group member that might just ride the coattails of others, and I want to prevent that because we should all be putting forth the maximum effort and putting in as much work as everybody else in this group project. So please do tell me a breakdown of who did what. All right, so the case study. First, you're going to read the case study information. Keep in mind that you concentrate just on the information that's provided. Do not go outside, do not speculate, just use the information provided because that is your data. So you're going to start with general and demographic information about the family and the child. So make sure that you talk about the family also. In early childhood, we do family-centered practices. So we're not just helping the child, we're helping the family as well. So general information, anything that you think should be discussed. This is going to probably come from the first written portion of the case study, which you're going to talk about the child's age, so Matt's age, date of birth, his placement, his diagnosis, discuss the family, discuss any background information that you think is relevant for the family. You don't need to go on pages and pages about this, but please do discuss it thoroughly and fully, and make sure that you include information that you think is relevant for us to know for this intervention plan. Next, you're going to identify and summarize developmental, background, and referral information. So developmental information, we're dealing with the 5 developmental domains. So this would be cognition, this would be language, it would be motor, it would be self-help, adaptive, and social skills. So make sure that you're talking about that. And background information, again, anything that you think we should know about the developmental background of the family or of Matt. So I included social, academic, developmental, medical history, family histories, types of services that are currently being provided. Next, you're going to identify the needs, priorities, and concerns of the family and child. So since Matt's so young, we're probably not going to hear about his needs and priorities. I don't know if he's able to articulate that yet, but the family will be speaking for him. So make sure that you are talking about the family's needs. They're going to be discussing things that are important to them, where they need the most help. What are their priorities? How are their priorities listed? And also, what are their major concerns? So make sure that you do address this area fully, because in family-centered practices, when we're developing IEPs for children or when we're developing intervention plans, we do take the family's needs and priorities and their concerns into account. Next, identify the family's sources of support. And I don't think it's on here, but identify the family's sources of support. Okay, so formal and informal sources of support. They might have institutional support. Maybe they're supported by certain services, institutions. They might be supported by neighbors or family or friends. So discuss that. And what are their resources? Emotional resources, social resources, financial and educational resources. So talk about how others are supporting the family, and talk about where they get their resources from. Next, summarize and discuss and explain the assessment information. Okay, so this is a big one because this is an assessment course. So I'm giving you information on how Matt scored on various assessments. You are going to read that information, you're going to interpret it, and then discuss and explain it at length. What does it mean? I see numbers, I see words. Tell me what it means, and tell me why it's important to know what it means. So really get into that assessment information. This is how you're going to show that you know how to read and interpret both formal and informal assessments. So you're going to be talking about home observations, teacher rating scales, parent input, feedback, anecdotal notes, scores, strengths, limitations, emerging developmental skills. So you're going to look through that case study, and anytime you see some form of assessment, this is how you're going to be discussing it. Next, suggest additional alternative types of informal or formal assessments that could have been used to further assess Matt. So by this time, you are very familiar with all the different types of assessments, formal and informal, authentic and whatnot. So discuss where you would go and how you would integrate different types of assessments in this portion. Use your background, use the assessments that are your go-tos, and then discuss why. You have all of the assessment information that I've already given you, so what do you want to know further? Next, identify best practices and family-centered practices that professionals used when working with Matt and his family during the assessment and intervention process. So you're going to see that some practices are best practices, that they are very nurturing and supportive of Matt and his family, and then also discuss how they integrated family-centered practices. Now, these are practices that families are at the center. We're not just focusing on the child, we're focusing on the concerns, priorities, and needs of the families as well. And after you have all of that information, you are going to write up an intervention plan for the family and the child based on all of the information that you have collected and written about. So all of the developmentally appropriate practices and recommended practices, that's what I want you to use. I want you to use recommended practices. So based on the information you've collected, you know the needs of the family, you know the assessment results, and you've interpreted them. Now you're going to develop an intervention plan that's targeted for Matt based on his areas of need, and also that is targeted for the families based on their areas of need. So I don't want you just to give me in-class activities and strategies. I want you to give me learning activities that are both for in-class and at home, because we're going to be incorporating the family. So focus on interventions and writing outcome statements that can occur in both home and school. And make sure to take into account all of the developmental domains of the child. So you can have certain activities that are working on areas that he might not be struggling in, but it's still trying to enhance these areas. We work on supporting the areas that need more support, but also enhancing the areas that are on target. Okay, so this is going to be a pretty long report. I'm assuming that you guys are going to break it up, but please do make sure and proofread the entire report. I've had people in the past, groups in the past, who have given me reports that are missing large sections, and everybody in the group will be faulted for that. It's not just one person's fault, so make sure that you check on what everybody else has done. I will be giving individual group grades based on the amount of work and the caliber of work you've done, but if there's one large flaw in the whole thing, everybody's going to be faulted for it, so make sure that you check on what everybody else is doing. I've received a few questions already, and I hope that this is answering them. Please do contact me with any further questions or concerns, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of your intervention plans.